All right. First things first. Can anybody hear me? Gonna give people a chance to join, I guess. Hmm. Sorry, just typing into Discord. But in any case, I'm sure people have been wondering why I call this thing the Beast. Now you can see why. Truly horrifying when you don't trim it. But yeah. So I did count the growth points. It has 6 major ones. I have no idea how many under there are dead or any new ones starting. We'll have to see as I cut. So yeah, but I will start cutting momentarily. But yeah, I'm just gonna use a regular pair of scissors. There are some people that use razor blades, probably better, but I don't have the dexterity for that. And unfortunately, I'm out of regular cups that I use, so I guess these wax paper cups are gonna have to do. Yes, I've done cuttings in wax paper cups before. No, it does not kill them. No, the cups don't immediately turn to mush. In fact, they generally don't, unless the outside of them gets super wet. And while I won't be bagging up most of them because I don't care really if there's a ton of them that make it, I will be bagging up a few just to make it more likely because some people have some people have requested cuttings from this thing. But I wonder though, where should I cut first? Let's see. Yeah. Now I'm just checking to see if the chat can be used since I'm not seeing any messages. Yep. Ha! Only one viewer, that's fine. Yeah. But at exactly 8:30 I start. So if nobody else starts to watch, I guess I just start cutting. And yes, it does. It does look truly, truly disgusting. Especially this growth point right here. That one is the one that managed to meet the lights. Because it grew straight up. The rest down in here are various leaves that got choked out either due to yeah, it is quite a mass. It has grown completely out of control. It probably needs to be repotted. Here's the growth point that flowered male. See there. As you can see, I kind of decimated the flowers on that, gathering the pollen. But no, I do not have any idea exactly how many growth points this has, if it only has the remaining dominant 6, or if it has far more. But yeah. So just 3 minutes to go. 3 minutes until this beast is cut. But no. Now, in case anybody's watching that doesn't know what this is, it is Ventricosa crossed with a Aristolochioides with Dorelii. I am probably pronouncing at least one of those wrong, but if not, good on me. But yeah. Now I have at least, I think, 10 cups here, and I should probably be able to fit at least 2 cuttings in each cup, probably possibly 3. And while I'm uncertain as to how many of these will make it, it'll be too many. The answer is too many will make it. Oh, right, and it does have one upper picture right here that you can see. A lot of the sorry, I can't make it go still. A lot of the Aristo sort of influences in this kind of warped picture here, but a lot of them look like that. That's kind of just what it does. It looks warped, but all of its pictures have always been kind of like that once it started making uppers. Yeah. It's actually not a big neck at all. In fact, this is, considering the fact that its flowering size is quite small, it just has a lot of growth points. But it is indeed 8:30, and that's where the cutting begins. I think I'm going to get rid of this light destroyed growth point first right here that grew up out the top. That's what you get for growing straight up right into the lights and deciding to keep going up even after you hit them. See, so, when doing ones with long intranodes like this one does, very long distance in between the leaves, it's fairly reasonable to just go every third leaf. But with ones that are kind of close to each other, ones that are really bunched up, 5 leaves also works. I could do 5 leaves on this, but that'd be a huge cutting. So 3 leaves for ones that have a lot of space, a lot of stem in between leaves. 5 if they don't have very much. So here we go, first cutting. I also cut in an angle. It increases surface area for roots to grow out of. Let's see. Yep, as you can see, it's slanted. Some people do too. I try not to. I try not to do two. I try to do more than that. Because on ones I've done two, it's kind of hit or miss. Oh, I'm gonna hopefully name this as a cultivar. That's what I'm gonna do with all these cuttings. I'm gonna hand them out to a lot of people to demonstrate that this thing's crazy habit of just producing an insane amount of basils is consistent. And not just a matter of this one individual. So I'm gonna root them, and a bunch of people are gonna get them. I have no idea if this one from this kind of destroyed growth point is gonna have any higher chances of success than one that's lower down. Usually the ones that are, the growth point itself have a better shot, but that one's so warped and destroyed, I'm not sure if it will. It might still make it, I'm just saying, I don't know if it would have the advantage that it normally would. Let's see, oh, there's the scissors. I lost track of them for a second. Now I have to go and take, of course, another cutting. Oh, I tore a leaf somehow. It's unfortunate. Oh, it was pressed up against the light itself. It's burned at the edge. It didn't just simply develop pressed up. It burned that way. Now, of course, going into this mass further, I should probably actually aim for a growth point that's more towards the edge. There is one that I already started to cut because I had to take a cutting to replace a Ventrata that didn't make it to a person I sold it to. And that's actually how I discovered the flower. Now, this cutting, unfortunately, I made poorly. You don't usually want it to be quite that close to the bottom leaf. But, with a mass like this, it's kind of hard. It's kind of difficult to get it in there properly. Now, I don't do the cut the half of the leaf off thing, unless I really want to save space. But I do usually cut off the pitchers, if there are any, or the tendrils. Because one, it saves space, two, it does absolutely nothing. Otherwise, they just dry up. Okay, try to get down further into this mass. Now, I anticipate seeing just a ridiculous graveyard at the base of this thing. And I am going to leave at least one growth point untouched. Because, I want it to flower again. All right. Yep, that's 3 cuttings in my cup right here. I'll cut off the pitcher later. It's not something that's, pressing by any means. And in case you guys were wondering, it's kind of sticky too. It's one of those. It gets some stickiness, which makes this thing truly unpleasant to touch. And difficult to get. Oh, it has seven growth points that are competing to be the main one. Okay, I already found another one that was hidden. My goodness. Trying to get at the trying to get a good angle at these as I cut them down is super hard. It's really bunched up and thick. And it's hard to tell where one part begins and another ends. Also, its internodes become shorter the farther down I go. Let's see, 1, 2, 3. I'm gonna have to do 4 on this one. Yeah. Another poorly done. Another poorly done cutting, and now the start of another cup. There's my distilled water down there. Now, at its peak of number of live basils, it was over 30. But over time, they choked each other out until, just the 7 of them dominated the rest. And of course, some of them were always too small to make it. Where did I? There's that cup. Now, some people should, in case you haven't done a net cutting before, if you see a basil on your plant, do know that sometimes the basils can and will destroy the main growth point, especially if more than one appears at once. That's actually what happened to this one. Somewhere in here is the original growth point that just got utterly destroyed by its outrageous basiling. And I'm sure we'll be able to see it once I cut away enough of these. Fortunately, it's getting harder and harder to take proper cuttings. And yeah, even though the leaves are partially brown at the edges here, there's no reason I can't cut it. They look horrible anyway. They have a chance of possibly making it. Even the ones that are from the horrible growth point that got partially shaded and then touched the light. Got to see what, and I won't be giving these out until the spring once they've established themselves, once the weather is also good on my end after winter, and after they don't look so horrible. Nobody wants to get horrible looking plants, even when they're free, except for shipping. Okay, so that's 6 down. Now, another way you can do cuttings, though, aside from doing the slant, is you can also about up to the next leaf slit up. But I would recommend having very sharp utensils if you're going to do that, and also not use just water. You got to shove up some media into that for the best results. So, what do you guys think? Should I leave this one here that flowered alone, or should I allow one of these other ones to take over instead? Because while this one, of course, has already flowered and thus proven itself to have the capacity to do so again, there's at least 2 other growth points on here that look far, far better. What do you guys think? Do you think I should go and stick with the one that's already flowered, or should I go for a more attractively growing one? I'll start cutting at some of the lesser ones if you guys want to discuss. Or not. Now, this is from one of the better looking ones, but it's short. a short growth point. I've noticed that each and every growth point that managed to survive was one that grew in a different direction. It's really helpful in helping me decide. You get to choose which one you leave. Of course I do, ultimately. I'm just not sure. If I knew which one I want, how did another leaf come off? Uh, okay, I'll consider that. The attractive one should stay because it'll eventually flower. Okay, it should. It should. Let's see, one, two. Oh, this is why I didn't actually cut it a long time ago. Is because when it was smaller, it grew so compact and everything was bunched together like an actual bush. It's a leaf from this one right here. It, and so I couldn't really angle into it. It was just a solid mass. It's always been a sort of plant I wasn't sure what to do with. I was actually convinced it'd never flower because all it did was constantly basil all the time, destroying whatever largest growth point existed. I'm kind of shocked it eventually had it where I guess enough roots existed that it could support its habit. Precision pruning shears? I don't think I'd be very precise even with that help. Now, as you can see, when it dedicates all of its time to constantly getting bigger and making more basils, it doesn't make the pictures very large. However, it's not, something that it would always do. It's it used to go and make pictures quite frequently, but then I moved it into a lowland area and it freaked out. It grows perfectly fine lowland, but it basils constantly. But if I put it in a highland environment, it grows like a normal plant mostly. Occasionally it'll produce a basil, maybe once every few months. And rather than every 2 weeks. But yeah, now I'm at the base of this one right here. So that one's done. I finally cut down. I've got 9 of them thus far. Need to fill another cup. So obviously, there'll be plenty for anybody that wants any. And anybody that has any interest can, just message me on the Discord. The people that come here because of my fiance's gaming channel must be so confused. They walk in and they're like, "Oh, live stream." Nope, it's not a game. I'm cutting a carnivorous plant. Kind of an interesting warped growth point. Sometimes it just forms strange looking leaves that are all crumpled. There's no pest on it. I've even looked with the microscope and everything. It's just, I think it's hormonally just out of its freaking mind. It's plant mind. It just goes and grows these things so fast that it just passes all checks that would make sure it grows regularly. It'd probably be covered in tumors if it were an animal. I cut another leaf again. To be fair, I'm not trying all that hard. And if you're wondering if any of the stems are woody, the answer is no. No, I don't. This is the first video on plants on this channel. The answer is no. It's my fiance's gaming channel. I'm just using it because it's the one that was approved for live streams. And because this computer records better. My computer is a glorified calculator. I think that's the last one on that growth point I'll take. Not that it looks particularly good. If anybody wonders if leaving all these cuttings in one cup means their roots tangle, the answer is only if you leave them long enough. And I don't. I pay attention. I actually check up on cuttings daily to remove any dead ones, of which I rarely do. Because most of my cuttings do make it. Now, one of the unfortunate things is that none of the attractive growth points are really at the center. The center one was taken up by the one that wanted to kiss the lights. Which I think I can... Well, I managed to cut 2 growth points at once. Well, not growth points, to, Oh, I forgot to pour water in this cup. Now, something interesting I'm gonna try with this one. I don't know how they will respond if there's 2 cut ends in the water. Because, it's not a growth point cutting, so it has 2 sliced ends. So these 2, I guess, will be an experiment in that regard. I've never seen anybody do it. I'm sure there's somebody else that has, but never said what happened. I'm just curious to see if both ends will grow roots out of them, or if it will be just the one that's, gravitationally pushed down. Probably the latter, but I am curious. Ah, growth points tangled together too. Okay, so let's see. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cups. That's 15. 15 cuttings thus far. And I think I'm halfway through cutting this. Interesting. Okay, so here's the cuttings coming off of the growth point, healthy enough to produce a flower. Now, as you can see, it produced abnormally small leaves before the flower came out. And I could see a strange bumpiness in the growth point before I could see the flower itself. So I suspected it might flower, but I wasn't sure that that's what it was doing, because it's a hormonal mess. It does weird looking stuff in its growth points quite frequently, but I'd never seen something that looked bumpy like a pea. And yeah, it flowered male. My very strange, strange boy. I forgot to pour water again. However, if it's not a species, it's a hybrid. It's Ventricosa crossed with Aristolochioides crossed with Thorelii. It's not. It's a genetic abnormality is what it truly is. And anybody that wants to see that hasn't seen what its pictures normally would look like, both lowers and well, the upper you could see earlier in this. In fact, it's still attached. Let's see, where's the cup that had an upper still on it? It has uppers with very small lids that open out sideways like Aristolochioides, which are, oh, here we go. They're smaller than they probably would normally be as a result of its atrocious habit of producing basils nonstop. When I say it produces one that shame video is not recorded, I'm not recording it. Huh, I thought I was. Very unfortunate. Too far in now. I don't know how to fix it. I'm terrible with computers. Oh, what? Never mind. Oh, you scared me. I'm looking at the Discord. Scared me. But yeah, I should most definitely have more than enough for anybody that wants them. And I can only ship US, unfortunately. I'm sorry. Despite the fact that this is a hybrid of no, horticultural value in the sense of preserving species and whatnot. There goes the flower one. Now, if the plants will go and only produce roots out of one end when they're in a normal orientation, what happens if both the cuts are sideways? Would both of them produce roots then? Would half of it produce at each point produce roots and the other half try to produce a leaf? That I might try to figure out too. Because it's probably die. The answer is probably die. If I mess with the natural order, it probably dies. But there's so many of these cuttings, I have to start setting them down on the floor. The shelf over here is now so crowded. With cuttings. Thankfully, I have a spacious windowsill I can put these on. A few of them. A few spots. I'm not sure if they'll root better as a lowlander or as a highlander or as an intermediate. Because it's always responded oddly to changes in conditions. Mostly just by producing more basils. See, super, because of course it's vining, very long internodes. See. Yep, now we're starting to get down into leaves that are old or dead, dying. Not sure if I should cut down farther, but if I don't, if there's any green, I know it's just going to go and produce a bunch of basils on this end, is what it's going to do, and then they're going to die, and this whole thing is going to turn brown. So I might as well just keep cutting. Now, it is absolutely crucial, of course, that if you're if you're shoving more than one cutting into a given spot, that you don't let any of them start to slowly push each other out, because you're not going to be able to just pat it down and think, oh, it'll stay down after I patted it down. No, no, it'll get pushed up and it'll die. You can't just gently pat, you got to push them right in. That would be neat if it grew roots out of the side of the stem. If I wouldn't oriented the cutting horizontally. Right. Now we're getting to the growth points that are very compact, the ones that haven't really started vining yet. And I didn't even pull the cup out of the stack this time. Completely lose my rhythm more and more as I go on, realizing how much I've done to myself cutting all these. How much I'm going to have to deal with later. I have seen a raft style bonsai. Actually did gardening for a professor, and his wife was extremely into them. They're very neat. I think cascades are my favorite. And then she proceeded to hand me a bunch of them. She's like, "Oh, you think these are neat? Here, have my extras." I'm like, I don't want to ruin your tiny trees. But I got stuck with a bunch of them, and now I have to try to not make a bunch of bonsais that were carefully trimmed for years look horrible because I don't know what I'm doing. So much tangling. Let's see, how many cups have I done thus far? Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8. Oh, so that means I went and took 11 cups. What a strange number I took. The emoji that's like this is so common in the like this is so common in the chat. It should just be the symbol, especially on the Discord. And now we're getting to some really sorry looking bits at the end. And yes, I guarantee you that in response to me cutting down this far, it's going to basal more. All stress to this plant means is basal more. Reproduce one way or another. However, I'm gonna have to turn the fan on because my fiance got a discount on this computer because it's the floor model and it likes to overheat. So, sorry about the fan now in the background, but sure, there'll be plenty of cuttings for everyone who wants one. I assure you. Just go into Savage Garden and just message me you want one, and I'll be sure. As long as you live in the United States, that I will get you one. But you're paying for shipping. And the quality of shipping you want is the quality of shipping, the quality of shipping you pay for is what you get. See, I got one in there. But now you're gonna see exactly what a graveyard and a mess this thing is at its base. Once I cut down into all the parts. Oh, it does! It does have a woody stem partially the way down. I thought it was actually green all the way. Sloth triggered. What am I gonna do? I don't have the paperwork to ship to other countries. I just don't. Okay, I think we're starting to get to the last bits here. I hope. Unless there's some more hiding under here. Right. Jesus, I'm gonna have trouble getting out from behind this desk as a result of all these cups I'm putting on the floor by my feet. I certainly trapped myself quite efficiently. I think I'm gonna end up using exactly 11 cups. I managed to get the perfect number. I'm not gonna have to put any away that I got out. I'm not gonna have to get up and grab any more. Do I ship bare root and can I fit them into one of the small flat rate boxes? The leaf span is probably a little too large. I'd probably have to do the thing where I cut the leaves in half. But I do ship bare root, wrapped in either sphagnum or moist paper towels. I can try to fit one into a small flat rate box, but I don't think I would succeed. Because, I mean, the leaf diameter of the larger ones would be about 6 inches. That's about as wide as it ever has gotten. And the smaller ones would be maybe 4. So they'd be damaged for sure trying to fit into a flat rate box. And they're gonna grow after they root. By spring, they're certainly gonna grow new leaves. Because I have taken basils from this before, and it roots quite easily. That's why some people are gonna say it's gonna become the next Ventrata. Because it basils even more than my Ventrata. I had a large Ventrata, quite a bit larger than this. It never basiled as frequently as this has. Ever. And it's nice in the fact that if you don't want it to basil and become a huge bush-like monster that goes and chokes other basils to death as it grows more of them. Just grow it in highland conditions. That's where it's the most stable. Tangled together. But also, towards the end of this, if anybody wants to see some of my other plants, they can stick around for that if they want. I'm not going to carry out all of them here because that'd be a huge pain. But some of the smaller ones I could carry out. Let's see if I can. Well, first I got to fill the cup with water. Alright, I think there's a solid 3 more I can get off this thing. Which means I have, let's see, 3 in each one. 33! 33 cuttings off this thing! Please, for my sake, don't have every single one of them root. I don't think I could handle every one of them rooting. I don't think I could rehome that many. Unless some people want more than one. But I assure you, if you want more than one, you're gonna get more than one. It's gonna make more than one. Like I said, people pay for the shipping they want. You know. Yeah, you don't need insurance. I'm sure that I will have spares, even if one's right dead somehow. And I don't ship plants when I know the weather in the area I'm shipping it to is bad. Oh gosh, there are actually starts of other basils down at the base of this thing that would have inevitably perished if not for the fact. Now you guys can go and see this graveyard here. Oh, don't flop in the way, the big basil. You can see all this dead stuff. Tons of dead growth points of various ones in here. This one right here is the original growth point that died out a few months ago. But, yeah. That's what happens. You get, because when they crowd each other out and shade each other, they can't get light. So of course the leaves in that growth point will die, as if they're an individual plant rather than a part of the whole. It does that with trees too, which is why you'll go and see pine trees. They grow tall, and you'll see like towards the base of them there'll be a bunch of dead branches. Yeah, it's time to do some trimming. It's been time to do some trimming. I ignored it. So it became this. This absolute horror. But yeah, it's not going to be a whole lot here once I've fully finished, so... I'm hoping that if I cut away all the spots that are green, all the part of the stem that is, there will be fewer basils that come out, because the basils will come out of the green parts of the stem quite a lot, rather than towards the base like you would think. No, it does it everywhere. I've even seen growth points grow off of the growth point. It shouldn't do that. It's so unusual in its growth habit. But yeah, time now to get rid of a bunch of the dead leaves. Cleaning up this crap. So yeah, there actually are some very small growth points down in here that would have, of course, inevitably died. And I reiterate, the maximum number it's ever had broke 30. 30 growth points at once on a plant that at the time it had that didn't exceed the diameter of this pot. And it did that within a matter of a few months. It didn't even take a year for it to get like that. That was its response to moving from highland conditions to lowland conditions. Because I had no choice but to move it into the lowland area for a bit. Then I kind of forgot about it there, and then it did this. Well, not so much forgot as it was doing fine. It looked. I'm like, oh, look, it made a couple basils. That's neat. And of course, I only have one very old picture of the lowers this thing produces. Because once it started doing the crazy basiling thing, it just immediately stopped producing them. Probably because it was dedicating all of its energy to freaking out. But I should have known. And it came with a warning. When I first got this plant, it was one of the first Nepenthes I ever got. And when I got it, it was a 3-year-old plant that had 4 basils on it when it arrived to me. And before doing that massive change, from highland to lowland, it did produce a couple more while I was taking care of it, because it will still basil in highland conditions, no doubt it will. So there is one other person in the world, though, that does have a cutting of this. I don't even know if they're still into Nepenthes. I don't know if it's still alive, but somebody else has the potential to have already had this. And I don't know if they would have had freak out like mine, or if they just kept it in highland conditions, so they never knew it would do this. Look at that. The dead remains of the dying. And even as this one was dying, if you look very closely, you can see that even as it was dying, it started to produce a wimpy, tiny growth point right here. So even as its original main growth point was dying, it basiled there. Yeah, oh, I turned a fan on, that's why it's windy. Sorry about that. I have no choice. My fiance's computer is the floor model. And so it overheats. So you need to turn the fan on. Otherwise, bad stuff would happen. Yeah, futile growth. There's a few other otherwise that would have been futile growth points in here. Gosh, I haven't trimmed this thing in ages. I actually see some remains of old lowers. Like, let's see. Yeah, right here. this was a lower picture. You can see how it's attaching from the front with the lid. This thing hasn't had a lower picture in at least 7 months, probably longer. Now, I should repot this in fresh media, but I don't have any mix prepared at the moment. I'll just do that later, not on camera. It's going to be a huge pain in my butt. Because I'm sure if this thing is not root bound, then I am a ham sandwich. I am a literal ham sandwich if this thing is not root bound. It's HP. It automatically sucked at cooling. I cannot upgrade the cooling on it. Yeah, I am gonna eventually repot this. Not on camera, but I am. It needs it. This, I mean, now that I've cleared up some of the... You can see how disgusting this media is. It used to be it was live sphagnum once. It was. I swear to you, it was. Once upon a time, there was live spag that was filling this pot for this plant. But it has long since degraded. It got choked out by the plant too. It couldn't get any light. Even if this thing miraculously isn't root bound, it needs new media. But yeah, I see a tiny growth point growing up from the base already. Now, in case anybody was expecting that the basil production was continuous, it wasn't. Within the first 3 months is when it produced the majority, and after the change from highland to lowland. But it always, oh no, it's basiling in real time. I know, it's a really new basil too. It has just 1 leaf coming out of the bottom here. This thing had to be new. It couldn't have made this any more than a week ago. But it did slow down a little bit after that first 3 months, not producing a new one every 2 weeks. More like it's like in lowland after its initial shock, if within the first 3 months, it'll start just producing a basil about once a month, which is still ridiculous. No doubt, that is just completely ridiculous. No plant should be doing that unless it's like, I don't know, maybe Ampullaria does that? I know Ampullaria basils a lot. But even, once a month, that sounds like a lot for anything. It's a good thing this is a carnivorous plant and not something else and take over the world. But its specific soil requirements would prevent that. Just making a pile of death over to the side. Now, if anyone is wondering if the lowers were good looking or not after I'm done trimming this up, actually right now I could, right in the Nepenthes section of the Savage Garden Discord, I can go and pull up a picture of what the lowers look like. They're gorgeous. It always made gorgeous pictures. I was so sad it just kind of stopped doing that. Let's see, where is that picture? Here we go. Alright, I posted that into the Nepenthes section of the Savage Garden Discord. Unfortunately, my potato camera didn't really do it justice, but it was always very pretty pictures. Highland is definitely the ideal for picture growth, because if it goes to lowland, it will just dedicate all of its energy to producing basils rather than pictures, and it won't inflate them very well or very frequently. The cross is Ventricosa, crossed with Urstalochioides, crossed with Thorelii. With the latter two being a cross that was then crossed with Ventricosa. And as you can, if you're going and looking at the Savage Garden Discord Nepenthes section right now, you can see that it had a slight bit of the, hourglassness that Ventricosa has. It opened sideways like Urstalochioides, and I'm not quite entirely sure what Thorelii did to this. Maybe it's what contributed to the basiling, or some of the growth habit. I'm not familiar enough. Except probably not Thorelii. You're probably right. Probably like Smilicii? Am I thinking of the name correctly? If I haven't read it in a while, it can be hard for me to pronounce the names of these, or remember exactly how they were spelled. Something else that's confused with Thorelii. Regardless, not entirely sure what it would have done for this cross, other than make it more tolerant to lowland conditions, maybe? Oh, so I did say it right. Yeah, Sarracenia names are easier to say. But the worst one is Cassifioides. Do you understand? Do you understand what I went through to find out what that name was pronounced like when it starts with an X? I had to go and investigate roots of words and stuff, and I'm gonna type that into the Discord to show how it's spelled. Yeah, I researched for that with you. Why? Why is it spelled that way? Why, Greek? Why? X is the worst letter for pronunciation because it has no unique sound of its own. It's always borrowed from something else. And it borrows from multiple other sounds, depending on the language that the word is rooted from. Yeah, I know, blame the Greeks. Also, don't get the Westuvia clone of that species. It begs for death. There's nothing that pleases it. Even people that go and grow many difficult Nepenthes cannot grow that particular clone. It begs to die. You give it typical highland conditions, wants to die. You give it intermediate conditions, die. You try to give it close to lowland conditions, though you know it's going to die. It's just going to die very slowly, as these plants tend to do. And then eventually eventually you're just going to stop caring that it's dying and just accept it because it's been doing it for so long, you expect it. Which is a shame. I love the species, and I don't know if anything aside from that clone is really readily available. But yeah. Finally, I think I've got this finally all cleaned up. Alright. Well, as cleaned up as I'm gonna get it for today. Yes, I know, I left a few leaves there. It's probably gonna make more growth points where I left leaves. But, I'm just gonna... Yeah, they might all just be Gymnamphora. They might, but Cassipioides does have different coloration in its region than, Gymnamphora usually does. So I'm going to set this aside. Scissors away, gonna set aside the pile of death. As you can see, I have quite a bit of dead stuff right here. Of course, the majority of leaves, including ones that are dying, mid-dying, whatnot, were cut off when I made cuttings. But, so now, so you can't understand me when I'm not in front of the camera. Yeah, well, I mean, I cut away dead stuff. It'd be strange if it looked dirtier, wouldn't it? You know, chat looks much cleaner. But I'll take this as an opportunity to show off at least. Now, here's my pride and joy right here. This thing has gotten huge within the short period of time I've owned it. Now, anyone that goes and says, you know, pick Ventricosa as your beginner species, I say do Vogellii. Vogellii is especially if you're going for Ventricosa Red, Vogellii is easier than it, and it looks better than it. It is just a bit more pricey, unfortunately, and not as readily available, but it's worth it. It's worth it! Now here's another one that needs some media changing, but yeah, I'm just going to show off a couple of the plants I have in here already. And this one's an unknown hybrid. I lost the label. I don't remember what's in it other than it's 4 different species. And one of them, because of the fact that it has a slight light edge, that probably is not caught by this camera. Very slight light edge right beneath the picture. One of them is probably Albo marginata. Oh, hi. No, it's hearing me though.
Doesn't mean what? Oh my God! Why are there so many plants?
I told you I was going to be cutting up one of my plants.
I didn't know one.
This is all from one. This is all from one. Everyone's laughing in the chat at your reaction.
I'm surprised I can hear you.
I am too, because your microphone before didn't want to hear me.
Can they hear me?
Oh yes, they absolutely are definitely hearing you. But yeah, going on to this, it's one of the slowest growing things in existence. I don't know what's in it, but it is toothy. Let's see. Can the camera see the teeth? Yeah. and it has a different, and you go and think, oh, look at all those pictures it has. It's had them for ages. These pictures never die. I've seen it easily go and exceed a year for how long the picture life is. It just grows super slow, just as if it's complete. It's just, half speed or even less in every aspect. It also has very nice red foliage that this camera is not showing as red as it actually is. Let me try to think. I do have a very large Berbigier. Do you guys want to see that? Or no, is it EA? Burb! You guys know what I'm talking about. Oh, I did say it right. I'll have to go and have to grab it. It's starting to produce another picture. I'm not going to have it out here for long. It's going to take a bit for me to grab it. I'm going to put away these cuttings so nobody can trip over them. Don't worry, I'm putting stuff away. Gonna show off one more plant.
I expected this actually.
It didn't sound like you expected it.
I thought this was a lot more than one plant for a second until I got a good look.
What? Hold on a second.
Okay. Careful, don't knock over any of your multitude of plants.
I'm not gonna knock them over. I'm moving them so I don't knock them over.
Or me. Let's be honest and say I'm the greater threat.
You are definitely the greater threat. The rest of these have to go in the bedroom.
Okay. Oh, you're moving them down.
All right, people that have stood in this long. Here is N. Burbichier. Now, as you can see, it's quite large. Let's hold it up to my head. I know it's at least a foot wide in diameter. And of course, you can see another developing one here. I can't hold it out here for long because I leave it in a high humidity environment. So I gotta take this away. But this is absolutely the prize of my collection. But my attempts, unfortunately, to adjust it to ambient humidity have failed. So I'm either going to sell it, trade it, you know, one of those things is going to happen. I wish that the camera could capture colors a bit better. It produces whitish pictures speckled with red. There's some red on the peristome too, on the lid. And there's a darker red that speckles the inside that's not the color you've seen from outside. Oh, you're going to measure it. All right. Just measure it from widest leaf to widest leaf.
This
Okay.
to this. 10 and a half.
10 and a half inches?
10 and a half. Not an angle, but yeah, it's 10 and a half.
Looks similar. Yeah, it looks similar to one of yours. It does. But it's much, much larger. I have to put it back now. And I think I'm going to end the stream. Have a nice day, guys. Well, night.
Control plants.
I do not know the gender, no, unfortunately. However, it is a cutting off of a seed-grown plant that has yet to flower, so it could be either. Bye, guys.
Photosynthesize.
Ah.